Even when a movie is original, it isn't an entirely new idea per se. By now, just about every story has been told, and the films of yesteryear inspire the ones of today. It isn't out of the question for some movies to bear similarities to others, but there are times when Hollywood really scratches the bottom of the barrel. There are many examples of studios releasing twin films, which are projects with nearly identical setups that come out just months apart from each other. It happens more often than you'd think. Here are 10 twin movies suspiciously released at the same time. Jobs and Steve Jobs. Both of these were based on the life of tech icon Steve Jobs, so there were obvious parallels between Jobs and Steve Jobs. The proximity of their release dates was the stranger fact. Following Jobs' death in 2011, there was a race to get a biopic off the ground. Jobs, starring Ashton Kutcher, was the first in theaters, but was a critical dud. 2 years later, Michael Fassbender teamed up with Danny Boyle and Aaron Sorkin for a different take, one that was far better received, but bombed at the box office. Fassbender was nominated for an Oscar, but neither film left much of an impact when it was all said and done. No Strings Attached and Friends with Benefits. Even the most devout cinephile can't keep these two straight.
Toast to that.
No Strings Attached and Friends with Benefits were both released in 2011, and both featured a couple of attractive people agreeing to engage in a casual sex-based relationship only to fall in love later on. They were both even called Friends with Benefits when they started production. To avoid a further mix-up, Paramount changed the name of their project, and both ended up becoming hits at the box office. They may not have reinvented the rom-com wheel, but there are worse ways to spend a date night.
Let's see!
This Is the End and The World's End. Friends Simon Pegg and Seth Rogen discovered through a conversation that they were coincidentally working on similar apocalyptic films about a group of friends trying to survive a catastrophic event. The main difference between the two was that in Rogen's This Is the End, the actors are playing fictionalized versions of themselves, whereas The World's End is a more traditional narrative film with the cast playing original characters. Fortunately for moviegoers, they both served up plenty of laughs and thrills, earning excellent reviews and posting high figures at the box office. We guess audiences just love watching the world explode. It's a premise that never gets old. Mission to Mars and Red Planet. Any sci-fi fan has dreamed about traveling to Mars, and it's long been a staple of Hollywood films, well before The Martian was nominated for Oscars. In 2000, Disney released Mission to Mars, a film that was based on a Tomorrowland ride that had closed in the 1990s. It proved to be somewhat successful, and that's more than we can say for Red Planet, which was also about a trip to Mars. That movie bombed so poorly, director Anthony Hoffman never worked on a big-time feature again. Neither performed all that well with critics though, so it's hard to call Disney the outright winner here. Megamind and Despicable Me. Even by 2010, we'd already had several superhero movies. What about one focusing on a villain? Hollywood thought the time was right for two such projects as this decade began, releasing Megamind and Despicable Me. Both were about evildoers with a heart of gold who redeemed themselves by stopping a larger, greater threat. Since Megamind came out after Despicable Me, it was criticized for copying the formula, even though the two were probably in production at the same time. What gave Despicable Me the edge were the Minions, who are now just as popular on their own as the film series. There's still no Megamind 2. Observe and Report and Paul Blart Mall Cop. Who knew mall security could be so funny? Comedies Observe and Report and Paul Blart Mall Cop looked to give these underappreciated law enforcers the spotlight in 2009, with Seth Rogen and Kevin James out to prove that mall policemen were more than just a punchline. There seemed to be room for both, since they were going after very different audiences. Observe and Report was a classic R-rated Rogen flick, while Paul Blart aimed more for family laughs with a PG rating. Neither was a critical hit, but Paul Blart was the overwhelming victor at the box office, making enough to earn a sequel. Chasing Liberty and First Daughter. Political movies can always be interesting, especially in an election year. As US citizens geared up for the 2004 presidential race, Hollywood was asking moviegoers to decide which film about the president's daughter was better, Chasing Liberty or First Daughter. Both were bland rom-coms with the president's daughter as the protagonist, trying to shed the life of luxury in the White House for a more normal existence. Neither film worked all that well despite some intriguing talent, and both bombed at the box office. Maybe the first family isn't as fascinating as the one who's actually in charge. Go figure. Gordy and Babe. There was a real boom in talking pig films in the mid-90s. Gordy and Babe were both released just months apart from each other. The former was about a pig trying to find his family after they were taken away to be slaughtered. Though it reached theaters first, it was no match for Babe, which was one of the 5 Best Picture nominees of that year. It even won the Oscar for Best Visual Effects, breaking new ground in talking animal films. Even more incredible is that it's from the mind of Mad Max creator George Miller, so he showed some impressive range with this film.
If you say so.
The Equalizer and John Wick. 2014 saw 2 throwback action movies find success critically and at the box office. Starring Denzel Washington and Keanu Reeves, The Equalizer and John Wick revolve around ex-hitmen who come out of retirement to settle a personal vendetta against the Russian mob. The motivations were different, but the comparisons were obvious. In a weird coincidence, the sequels to both are scheduled for release in 2017, so these two blossoming franchises are going to duel again next year. If it's anything like the first round, fans won't be complaining. It's hard to go wrong with either of these actors in a leading role. Batman vs. Superman and Captain America Civil War. After years of superhero films being a fun escape for fans, 2016 decided to double down on the guilt and emotional toll metahumans face on a daily basis. Launching the new DCEU, Batman vs. Superman pitted the two iconic heroes against each other in a philosophical battle to determine which brand of justice was more appropriate. Months later, Marvel released Captain America Civil War, which saw the Avengers split into two factions and debate over the subject of superhero accountability. Both had very different critical and box office performances, but they tackled similar, thought-provoking concepts to deconstruct the genres. It was interesting, but we're looking forward to the fun stuff again. Those are our picks for twin movies released at the same time. Are there any we missed? Which ones did you prefer? Sound off in the comment section below, and be sure to subscribe to our channel for more videos like this one.